along as best as you can. I'm probably going to introduce some highlighters on top of this on my diagram, so if you want to have that ready. So true or false, vertically opposite angles are congruent. If vertically opposite angles are congruent, then the two lines connected by the transversal are parallel. That is false. Vertically opposite angles do not guarantee lines being parallel. But it's always, vertically opposite angles are always congruent, but they don't guarantee that lines are parallel, right? Because if you think about it, you could have two lines like this and a transversal, and if these two are congruent, it doesn't tell me anything about these two lines being congruent, being parallel, right? It just focuses, it's just right here along this intersection. So that's why that is false. This, all of you correctly said transversal, and then if two lines are parallel, then the corresponding angles are always congruent. Yes. How could I have changed this? Two lines, no, I would say this. If I said this, corresponding angles are always congruent, you would have to say false. Because corresponding angles are not always congruent. They're only congruent when we're told lines are parallel. Okay, so keep that in mind. Here is this is actually straight from the one of the questions in your books. I'm pretty certain. I have so many, I just grab random ones. And I started with 38, this one. And I was thinking, I'm helping some of you here and there. And this, I'm always thinking, how can I make it easier, right? So you should focus on the parallel lines, right? Like this parallel line, that parallel line. And I would not focus on this intersection at the beginning. I would travel along one of the transversals, one at a time. So you're going from this parallel line to the other one. Right? So you travel here, and then you notice, hey, this one and this one, I know something about them. Yes, it's sideways, but it doesn't matter, right? You have your parallel lines. And so these are alternate interior, right? So that's my justification. Please tell me, most of you are really good at telling me which one you did first. I need that, or else I'll go crazy, right? Or I will take a long time to mark. And then I take this other transversal here, and I travel there. The 43 doesn't transfer, because the 43 is touching this line here, which is not parallel or anything like that. So then you need to be like, okay, this one is touching the parallel line in the transversal, so is this one. So I used that, the alternate interior again to give me that 44. Okay, so one at a time. And now that you have angles everywhere, you can start using sum of triangle, right, to find D. What did I do next? I went 1, 2, 3. So I did D for sum of triangle. And then I went 4 for C. This is a straight line, straight angle. E is vertically opposite, right? So then you can go ahead and use those properties. Once you will need, guys, you will need to use one of the four musketeers. It's actually not four musketeers, but one of the four, right? AI, alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, or CIAs. You're going to need one of those four to go from one parallel line to the other. That's the only way you can do it, right? If you just want to stick to like the area around here, you can do that, but you must use one of the four to go over to this side, okay? So there you go. And then this we just reviewed. I think you all should be prepared for this one at this point. So sometimes they add, sometimes they're equal to each other. A lot of you said they're equal to each other, and that's where you made the mistake. So I would have taken off a mark for getting that part wrong, but I still gave you another mark if you did it correctly, right? The work that follows. And if you didn't do it correctly after the initial mistake, you lost marks again, right? So keep that in mind. Next page. I made a mistake there, right? That you saw that duplicate. That's why your quiz is out of 29, not 30, because I took this one out. It's exactly the same as A. But again, guys, so AB and CD, right? AB and CD, how can we know that those are parallel? Well, I use this one and this one, right? These are alternate exterior, right? When you consider this as your parallel line, these are alternate exterior, not interior. Some of you found a whole whack load of angles all over the place, which is acceptable. Just make sure you show me, right? So you were like this. There's nothing wrong with that. If this is 102, this is 102, right? And these are corresponding. So you could have said, hey, corresponding angles are congruent, therefore parallel. That's fine. And some of you ended up saying, well, this is then 78, right? And you found out that this is 78, right? So you use straight angles. It doesn't matter. This is 102 here because these are vertically opposite. So alternate interior angles are also congruent. So technically all of them are true, but you just need to show one. And then it's saying CD and EF. How do you know these are parallel? Well, the two angles that are given, I don't need to do any work here. I just know they're corresponding and they're congruent, right? So corresponding angles are congruent. That's how I know that these two lines are parallel. Okay. I meant to say, actually, for this one, just so you know, this meant to say line AB is parallel to EF. Like I wanted you to tell me, how did you know that these two lines are parallel? Right? And but as it stands, we're just going to leave it. I don't think it would have even worked. I would have had to give you a little bit more information there. Anyways, 5 done well by I would say a significant number of students. So you should have focused on finding this angle here using this triangle, which is 57. So once you know that this is 57, if you're considering these two lines to be parallel, we now know for sure because the corresponding angles are congruent, right? So this first mark would have been finding 57 using sum of triangle. I should have said that. And then since corresponding angles are congruent, we can conclude that this line will be parallel to that line, okay? So that's how you kind of show that lines are parallel. This one, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because I feel like you guys kind of got this for the most part. If there were mistakes, there were very few mistakes. Obviously, some of you might need to redo it, but it all starts with the interior angle, this one right here. Right? It all starts with that because that shows up everywhere. Okay? Shows up everywhere. And so I think some of the mistakes, if I can remember correctly, is the rounding. Make sure you round to 2 decimals. Don't use this. Some of you are using this shape right here. It has 3 diagonals as its sides, and that's a no-no. Like we can't do that. We can't solve that. That's not isosceles, right? So always make sure that there's only one diagonal, and then you're using the outside of the big polygon here, right? So you have a trapezoid, a triangle, trapezoid here, pentagon here. This is technically a pentagon as well, but it's not isosceles. We can't use it. So what you need to do there to solve for this sliver here, you know n, you know p, right? So I just subtract n and p from 147.27, which is that entire interior angle at this corner. So that's how I'm left with 8180. So just show me your work, and even if you make a mistake, you will not consistently lose, right? Because you're showing me your work, and most of you are really good at that. 7, we did that today as well. We reviewed that, so again, I don't think I need to spend too much time on this. Only one group used this method. First finding the exterior and then solving, but either one is fine. Like I'm not going to force you to do one over the other. So way to go. And then the quadratic one, which I would say overall I was happy. Remember, when you're finding the third point, it's going to be across your starting point. So it's over here, not down here. right? It kind of gives you that initial height is 35 yards, and then you reach a maximum height of 37 after 0.65. So make sure you don't mix these up. But the key here is that it's going to take another 0.65, which gets me to 130 to get back to the 35 yard starting height. I put it in a chart. I keystrokes, guys, key, right? And then that's the equation you were supposed to get. So if you got this wrong, -1. If you got anything other than that wrong, then you lost more marks there. And then the arrow's expected to hit the deer at 1 yard. So that's why y2 is equal to 1. You find the intersection. I had some rounding errors there, and sometimes it was just like 3.7 or something. Like I don't know what happened. But if you use the entire equation as provided by QuadReg, you should be getting this. So it takes 3.41 seconds for the arrow to hit the deer. And so the domain, right, times 0 to when it hits the deer. So whatever you got here, I needed to see that here. Okay. And in terms of range, I was actually very happy with most of you understood, okay, it doesn't hit the ground, it hits the deer. So 1 is the lowest height, 37 is the highest. Okay. Square brackets, I don't think I had round brackets, maybe one instance, but we're taking care of that, so I'm happy with it. I hope that this was centimeters cubed, like centimeters cubed is volume, right? So centimeters cubed is volume, so you have to use k cubed. I give you a mark if you put them in the right place. Okay, that was nice. And so if you put the new over the original, you got 5 point something, but you're supposed to cube root that to get 1.79. Okay. So that was the quiz. So if you have any questions, come and see me. We can address that. So here's your test checklist. What are we at time-wise? 10:04. Okay. So go to I'm just going to add this to your booklets, and I'm going to go to the very last page. So I'm going to go to page 80, I guess, and write down a test checklist. Chapter 2, right? Oops. Chapter 2, test checklist. Use alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, or CIAs to prove lines are parallel. Some without work, others require some work. Okay, I will say use straight angle, vertically opposite, sum of triangle. Those are the classic ones to get started. Those you can always use. Vertically opposite, sum of triangle, straight angle, always. They're always available to you if you need to. But remember, except for the sum of triangle, these ones always touch each other, right? Vertically opposite and straight angles, they're always right beside or next to each other. Remember that. Next, mystery angles. Mystery angles justify. Lots of examples there. Maybe I'll give you some page numbers later. Polygons. I would say no. Prefixes. So hexa, hepta, like I would expect you to know how many sides, right? So hepta, right? N is equal to 7, etc. Calculate. Does this mean anything to you? Sized. Sum of interior angles, central, exterior, diagonals, right? No formulas. Identify ice, right? So if you have a pentagon, you should be able to say this is I, this is E, and central is right there. That's small, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. I don't think I can do a whole lot better than that. But just look at your notes. Inscribe polygons. No isosceles formulas, right? And by that I mean you have your triangle 180, you have the trapezoid is 360, pentagon has 540, right? Etc. Tessellations. Tiling questions. Questions involving variables. Right, 2x and x minus 2, for example. Don't solve that one because I don't know if it works. I just made it up. Okay. Backwards questions. Find n, right? I'm going to go Reynolds. Surface area, paint, cost, carpet, keywords, taxes. That would be chapter 8, right? And you know what? I'm going to do plus some conversions. That's it. I would say November 1st posting has reviews and keys, right? That way, even if you review for the exam, you go down there and just say, oh yeah, November 1st, let's go back and check